Hello, 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 and welcome to Project Possible, a podcast with me, Rich Leigh, about what's truly possible. We all want to be healthier, happier, more fulfilled. The question is how. And in my interviews with incredible guests, talking to them about their successes, their careers, their highs, their lows, their challenges, their adversities, we get to the things that they never possibly thought were possible, but they managed to achieve anyway. So stick around if you're in it for positivity, optimism, all those good things. We are on episode 4 of the new series. So I had 2 guests, 1 solo episode. Today is with Stina Sanders. Now, Stina is a relationship therapist. She is an expert in all things dating and relationship-y. I absolutely loved my conversation with Stina. Took us in places that I didn't necessarily think we'd go. I knew that I wanted to talk about the impact of modern technology on dating and relationships and birth rates and all of those things. But we went in some really fun directions. Stick around for the question where I ask, at what point is an adult toy considered cheating? It's an interesting one. For me, this is, a delve into academia. Stina is studying to be a doctor, will be studying a PhD in this space, and it's fascinating to me to be able to apply that more technical academic lens to dating and relationships in general. So if that sounds like your street, it was a good fun one, it really was, then I think you're going to enjoy this. Thank you to everybody for your love, support, sharing, everything so far this series. The numbers are good. I'm happy with where we're at. Again, I'm doing this full time now, so I'm really, really devoting myself to promoting this, trying to get this out there. If you like it, if you even can tolerate my voice for 10 seconds, please share this. Just think, there's one person in your life right now that you could think about and send this to that would probably enjoy it. If you can think of that person, send it to them. Send them this episode link. Send them the Substack link. That's projectpossible.substack.com. I've got my first couple of paid subscribers on there as well. You don't have to pay. At this point in time, it's more of a gesture. So thank you to those people that have paid, because, as I say, this is what I'm doing now. So, I'm working out all the commercial stuff. Don't worry about it. Actually, I have quite a good idea for what to do until I'm up at the kind of numbers that do excite big brands. I'll probably be sharing that on social media fairly shortly. But all that being said, get on board, come join our growing band of possibilists, and all that remains to be said is, without further ado, I bring to you my conversation with Stina Sanders. Enjoy. You are a relationship therapist. You said that you don't like the word coach.
I hate coach.
Why do you hate coach? What's wrong with relationship coaches?
There's nothing wrong, to be honest, but it's kind of a running joke with therapists and coaches. Therapists don't particularly...
Oh, it's like a cat and dog thing?
Yeah, literally.
Okay.
It's like, oh, you're a coach. Because to be a coach, the training, it's not that extensive, whereas to be a therapist, realistically, you need at least 3 years of training.
You're doing a master's right now, is that right? I mean, that's one of my first questions is, what kind of theory do you have to do what you do? And what kind of training do you have to do what you do?
So I started because I wanted to initially go into PR, journalism. Then I started a dating app. I thought I was going to be
As you do.
As you do, I just thought I was going to be some girl boss, some entrepreneur. And then it just got to a point, which I guess we'll talk about in a second, where I was like, no, I need more. And actually, what am I passionate about? And what actually fulfills me? What do I want to do? So I dug a bit deep. And anyway, I did an introduction course to therapy. I can't remember how much I paid, but it was like, I don't know, probably less than $1,000. But it was just like a few weeks just to sort of get my feet and to see before
What kind of therapy?
That was just a generic counselling course.
Right,
it was like literally an introduction to therapy.
A friend of mine's looking at doing counselling now, and he sent me a page, and there were like 40 different types of therapy.
Yes. Yes, there is. And that's where it gets really confusing.
I sent him back. I said, I can't believe there's masturbation therapy. And he went and looked. And he's like, Rich, I can't believe I went and looked. I'm like, yeah, mate, well, don't trust me.
There's so many different... And this is why it gets really confusing, because I think... And also why people can't find the therapist that actually suits them and their needs, because it's so vast. Like I'm an integrative therapist. So although everyone calls me a relationship therapist in the press and online, and that's kind of where I've fallen into in the social media space, just because that's where people are interested, and also I enjoy talking about dating and relationships. But yeah, I'm an integrative therapist, which basically means I bring in different approaches, different styles. So things like CBT, you've probably heard of. I'm trained in that. Psychodynamic, which is very Freudian, trained in that. Transactional analysis, not many people know of that, but again, so it's like having a toolbox. So every client that I see is obviously different, and they have different needs. And so I can tailor my therapy session to what they want. So that's how I work.
It's wonderful again, because speaking to this friend, it sounds like he's done a couple of introductory kind of consultations or conversations. It sounds quite prescriptive. So you want that toolbox, you want that ability.
Correct.
I think they said to him, actually, you can't really be the person that puts a glass of water or gives a tissue over to your client. And he's like, what, why? And he was like, empathy?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, that's not how we do it. I was like, oh, okay, right. So maybe that's not the type for me.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is, of that toolbox you just mentioned then, obviously I've heard of CBT. You said integrative.
So it's integrative therapy.
Integrative is the umbrella
So
term.
that's like the toolbox name. And then you open up the box, then you can have Gestalt is one of them. So that's like working with the body. So very somatic. That's also working with metaphor. So a lot of people will use metaphors in therapy. They might say, I feel like I'm a ship in the night in the sea and it's really rocky. So I can work with that and I can kind of dig a bit deeper. Obviously, you've got things like psychodynamic therapy, which is Freudian. So that goes back to your childhood, your patterns, working from kind of the beginning state, the beginning era to now. Transactional analysis, which is about how we relate to ourselves and to others. So it's to do with our conversations and it's.
Tell me more about that one. That's one I've never heard of.
Oh, this one is my favorite one, actually, and I shouldn't really say that, but it is because we're all like this right now. We've kind of all got an agenda, right? Like it's a transaction, and you can actually work out a lot by different. You can learn a lot about yourself, but also about the dynamics in how people are relating to one another. I don't want to overwhelm you, but there's things like. The ego states, which is parent ego state. If you heard of this, adult ego state and child ego state. Right now, you and I are conversing in adult ego state. But if I were to switch it up unconsciously, which can happen, I might turn into a parent and I might be a bit critical of you and say, Rich, like you really shouldn't be slouching like that when you're talking to me. And that might make you turn into child ego state where you go, oh, sorry. Or you might not. You might just remain in adult.
I remain defiant. Yeah. Actually, Stina, I'm going to sit how I want.
Yeah, and that would be adult ego state. So it's very interesting. You can kind of work out through how people describe their relationships and how they're talking to other people.
Right. So do some people, just to jump ahead, I guess, do some people maintain a relationship where they're in like an adult state and the other's in more child state? So there's like an authoritative, 100%. Where they don't necessarily get that parity of adult.
Exactly. There's no equality. So yes, you see it in a lot of, not just romantic, it could be platonic, it could be work, where somebody is in that relationship is the critical parent, or could be even the nurturing parent, where somebody has this tendency to rescue and fix people who tend to play a victim, that child, that woe is me with their violin. So it's just kind of understanding those different patterns and dynamics and basically helping people to become more equal by recognizing what role are you playing in this transaction.
So is equality always the end goal?
Equality, no. So the ego state is for us, the end goal for that is to remain adult as much as possible. But naturally, you will go through, it'll be really, it's funny when you start becoming really aware of it in yourself. If you were to spend time with a parent, you might naturally, unconsciously, even though you don't want to, and you might be however old, you will naturally slip into being that child again, and your parent will take the parent role. It's really funny, and you can sometimes you can catch yourself doing it, but a lot of people don't realise what roles they're in. And so I help people recognise that and move out that through using transaction analysis.
And are there particular reasons why somebody might kind of lean towards a childlike ego state?
Yeah. Yes, like number of things. It could be to do with it, again, depending on that certain relationship, but it's kind of what that other person's kind of bringing up for you. So maybe if you're in a relationship with somebody who has taken on quite a parental role, let's just say, and you're quite childlike, it's probably because they remind you of a parent. Or perhaps it might be something to do with you have an unmet need as a child, so you are looking desperately for whether that's a nurturing parent, for example. So, yeah, there's lots of different reasons as to why people can kind of float about. But the thing is, you don't just stay in one ego state. Throughout the day, you will naturally change. It's quite fluid, but it's important to recognize.
And are there kind of gradients between the three? Like, is it as simple as you got these three states, or is there some like kind of grey in between?
The parent ego state is like that. It kind of stems off into two. So you've got the nurturing parent and the critical parent. Adult kind of is just it's secure. It knows itself and it isn't rocked. And then the child, yes, the child can also be split into two. You can have kind of the victim, woe is me, child throwing your toys out the pram, and again, you can probably have the kind of childlike, playful, cheeky aspect to it. So it's really interesting when you start reading about it.
So what brought you to this? What made you want to do this? I'm sure it's a question you've been asked lots. I mean, I've heard answers of, but...
Honestly, I'm getting hot now. What brought me to it? So I've always had an interest in psychology. So my brother is severely autistic. So growing up, I was always our whole family were, to be honest, were really interested in the brain. And we had a team of psychologists and speech therapists.
This is growing up in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
So my brother's autistic too.
Oh, really?
My brother below me ended up in a special needs school that was the best place for him.
Yes.
Absolutely. He was in mainstream, didn't quite work out. Again, there's that inequality or lack of understanding certainly then.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'll probably be able to speak to it of behavioural needs versus emotional needs versus academic needs, and it just came to a head. And a few kind of times have been expelled later, and he's in the best place for him. So I mean, what was your experience of that?
So Jack, this is the interesting thing about my brother Jack. When he was born, he learned to talk faster than I did, and I was the oldest, and he walked faster than me. So my parents like, yippee, like we've got a good one here. The first one, not so much, but the second one.
It's like your first pancake, right? It's never good. It's never great.
They're like, phew, we don't have to put in the effort with this. But actually, it was until he was about 3, he just stopped talking. And my mum and dad were like, is he mute? Is he deaf? They went through like multiple doctors. No one could give a diagnosis because it is quite hard. Nowadays we're so clued up on it, but back in the 90s, like it just wasn't really known. And eventually, I think after I don't know how many doctors they saw, they eventually got the diagnosis that they wanted and needed, and they were given no support. Basically, a doctor just handed over a leaflet and said, "Good luck."
Right. Here goes everything that we know and you're going to need to know.
Yeah, and my mum and dad were like, okay, thanks.
Yeah. And presumably the internet's not really, it's in its infancy.
And it wasn't even a thing, right?
Yeah.
And I don't actually know. I think my dad, I need to double check this. I think my dad read an article in the Times or something where somebody was detailing about their son being autistic. And my dad said, before they even got the diagnosis of Jack, like word for word, what her son was experiencing, Jack was. And my dad just knew, and he actually said he ended up putting the newspaper in the bin because he just couldn't. I don't think he couldn't even tell my mum. Like he just couldn't come to terms with it. But anyway, did eventually. But I think somehow they managed to get. I don't know again why or how they did this. But Sacha Baron Cohen, who we all know as Borat, his brother. I can't actually remember his full name, terrible of me, is one of like the top psychologists, psychotherapists, and specializes in neurodiversity in autism. And he's written loads of books. And I think it was actually his book or somebody in that field as well, which they managed to get hold of. And through that, it was basically like, you need to have support around you in terms of speech therapy. So my dad basically got a team of therapists to kind of help Jack learn to talk again, learn the basic life skills that we all take for granted, and just start again from scratch, which is weird, isn't it? For like, you've got a 4 or 5-year-old, but you're having to like literally do everything again. So Jack is very severely autistic. He can talk and he can have a relatively good conversation, but it's like having, I mean, he's 31, but it's like chatting to somebody who's, say, 3 or 4. And he can't comprehend things like money. He could never go to the shops and buy his groceries. He just wouldn't understand that. In Jack's head, he would just walk into the shop and walk back out again because he doesn't get it. But then the weirdest thing about the brain, well, not the weirdest, it's quite amazing, is if you said to him, Jack, the film Shrek, 1 hour, 36 minutes, go, he will recite word for word that scene. Like, how does the brain do that? Yeah, it can't do...
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's crazy. So, yeah, I think we've, as a family, have always had this interest in psychology.
When you say as a family, what was family life like? You mentioned that you were from Weston-super-Mare, the mighty Weston... No. Let's be proud. Let's be proud, if we can. I'm from, obviously, Gloucestershire, not too far away. But what was home life like?
Home was lovely.
And was it made difficult by that diagnosis?
It was made difficult by that. Have you heard of and you are one, have you heard of what a glass child is?
No.
So this is a glass child. It was actually a TED talk by a lady who grew up with siblings who had lots of different disabilities. I think one of her brothers was a drug addict. So he had his own sort of problems and I think was ADHD. Another brother, I think, or sister was autistic, and then another one, cerebral palsy, I want to say. It was quite an array of special needs and difficulties. And she herself was okay. And she coined this term, the glass child, because she described it as her parents always looked through her to the other children that needed that support. And she wasn't resentful and she wasn't angry about it, but it did have an impact on her, which it does. It absolutely does.
What kind of impact did it have on her? What did she say?
I can't actually remember now what she said, but I think it was just kind of learning. I don't want to quote her here, but I think it was just having to deal with the fact that she was never quite fully seen.
Is that the way you felt?
Yeah. Which is so mean. And I think my parents would die if they heard me say that. And they did so, and like, to be honest, it's two sides of a coin, isn't it? My mum and dad did so much for me. Like, I had a great school, I had a great education, I had an amazing childhood. You know, I wasn't abused or neglected in any way. But there were, you know, because Jack had to come first, his needs, you know, his priorities, he was priority.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a lot of people listening that if they've got children with additional needs, will understand that, and
yeah.
people listening that, you know, and almost you want that for your sibling or, you know, your family member that needs that additional support. You'd sooner, if you don't need it, you'd sooner say, please look through me.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. And it was like, but it was quite difficult because there's only 18 months between us. So, for example, I mean, it makes me laugh because it's so pathetic, but when you're a kid, it means everything. I remember, so this is how, by the way, this is so not traumatic and it's so silly, but it's just an example. But I desperately wanted to go to this theme park or somewhere, and I think we all went up there as family. There's only 4 of us, and they drove however many hours, 4 hours to get to this theme park, which that's all I wanted to do. The whole school holidays, I just wanted to go to this bloody theme park. And we got there, and unfortunately, I don't know why, but Jack ended up having a complete meltdown. He couldn't even get out of the car. Like, it was just, there was no talking him down. There was no regulating him. He didn't understand. It wasn't his fault. But unfortunately, we couldn't go to the theme park, and we had to all get back in the car and drive home. Now, no, that's not traumatic, and I did get over it, have I? But, you know, as a kid, you know, it's like, again, another thing that I can't do because Jack, with his needs, it was, you know, we couldn't accommodate it and we couldn't make it work. So a lot of the time, my mum and dad would be like, don't start with me, and be like, come on, like, because
look
of Jack.
At the situation.
Look at the situation, because they were up to their eyeballs.
Presumably but you're quite bright, quite able to see the situation as it is, right?
Yeah.
So.
And it was like, come on. And to be fair, I was like, yeah.
I get it.
I have to like suppress it, bite my lip. And that was a silly example, but there were lots of things
it's
that.
an example of a small, I completely understand. What did your parents do?
So my dad was a businessman. He owned, originally he was a greengrocer. And then he realised that supermarkets were up and coming in sort of the 80s. And he was like, right, I need to sort of come away from the grocery market scene and actually build a supermarket.
Is his name Asda? Mr. Asda? Is
well,
that your secret
interestingly, he did build a chain of supermarkets and sold to Tesco. Wow. So yeah, and then he was then able to.
What were they called?
They were called Sanders supermarkets. Yeah, so they were in Somerset mainly. And then from there, he went into radio stations and started a radio station. Sold that to, I think it was Capital or Global or whatever they're called. So that's his sort of track record. He starts up random businesses.
I mean, what an incredible jump from groceries to a radio station.
Yeah, and then an internet company, and then a garden centre, and then he's
retired. One of those.
Yeah, he's one of those, basically.
You can't sell it and just stand still.
Yeah.
Like, just sit still and enjoy it.
Yeah, literally. Okay. So he was a hard worker. But
quite motivated and quite inspirational to have.
He was so motivated, but he actually never, I don't think he ever really wanted to be an entrepreneur. What he actually wanted to do was motor racing. So, which is an expensive sport. So
I had Zach O'Sullivan on. He was racing in the F2, the F2, racing in F2, and we walked through every stage from karting all the way up to F2. The prices per year, and we're talking to even get to that stage, millions of pounds just piled in with absolutely no guarantee of success.
Oh no.
So it's a super expensive. I mean, presumably he wasn't able to do that.
Like, not F1, no. Yeah. Sorry, Dad. Love you, but you weren't that good. But it was just a hobby, a very expensive hobby. So to fund that, he needed to work. And by doing so, he just fell into like different businesses. And that's always kind of been... I've kind of taken that stance as well, as like, if you don't know where you're going, any path will take you there, kind of thing. And it's just about throwing yourself in. And it might not take you anywhere, but it might take you somewhere, which then leads you somewhere else. And that's kind of really been my life as well. And then Mum, she was she was a housewife. She was a mum. She loved us, looked after us, and did a great job at that too. So,
do you think that the psychological needs and the needs in general of Jack were something that inspired you to kind of look into this subconsciously, consciously?
Yeah, possibly. I think so, because like I said, like there was this sort of interest in psychology and how the brain worked. But I think...
What did you do at uni? You said that you went to Bath Spa.
I did business. And by the way, this was something I had to learn about myself as well. I was very much like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I finished school, didn't quit school. I actually finished school. Got terrible A-levels. Don't even know how I got into uni.
Go on, what did you get?
I got an A in psychology.
Well,
but then got like D's and everything else. I can't remember what I even did.
Anybody listening to this, and it doesn't tend to skew under 18, but hey, there might. If anybody's listening.
And then I was like, oh, what do I do? And then I actually went... I was sort of every now and again, just a bit of pocket money. I was doing a bit of modelling gigs and TV presenting. Nothing big, nothing that
what
spectacular.
Sort of things did you do?
I was a links mink, so I did a lot of links, the deodorant adverts. I did like loads of stuff like that.
I remember a massive one, like where there were like hundreds of women running at a bloke in the desert. Were you in that one?
No, I wasn't in that one. That was a bit before my time, but yeah. So I did some really cool ads with them. There's like loads of different stuff, but a lot of glamour modelling actually. So I never showed anything. There was no nudity, but it was kind of implied.
That Chris Pratt Parks and Rec, where he's like, I don't know what that is, and at this point I'm too afraid to ask. What is glamour? I don't really know the difference between glamour modelling and other types of modelling.
So glamour modelling is literally like bikini, sexy, sultry, lingerie. It can also be, if you go the other, like really far down the line, it could be soft porn. I never did soft porn. I was in Zoo magazine and Nuts and what else was the other one? FHM and stuff. Like it was that kind of world. So yeah, and I had, it was great fun. And then kind of did that for a bit, and then I was like, I should really probably do something with my life, because let's be honest, like this is drying up. my age, my looks. Like, I don't know if I'm going to get, because like with most things in life, you just don't know when your next gig, it's not guaranteed.
I think the world of that shifted very quickly. Lads Mag culture moved on. It changed very abruptly.
Overnight.
Yeah.
And I got out, thankfully, I would say a few years before that, because I kind of felt, I had a gut feeling that was what was going to happen. Not that I knew it was going to be completely the end of it. I mean, to be honest, it's not really the end of it, is it? Because OnlyFans and everything else. But, and actually, it's interesting. I was thinking the other day, sorry, tangent, but I was like, I wonder if I would have done OnlyFans if that was around. Like, who knows? Again, I don't think I would have done anything like pornographic, but that's glam modeling. That is its sort of umbrella, really. And then I was like, I should probably go to uni. And then I had applied.
So you didn't go at 18?
No, I went at 19, I guess. Took like a year out. So I had deferred, and Bath had accepted me. And then I was initially going to psychology because that's what I liked.
It's the only good A-level you got.
And it was the only good A-level I had. So it was like, well, yeah, that makes sense. And to be honest, I was really looking up to my dad. And I think at the time I was vying for some validation from him a little bit, to be seen, to be, like, what should I do, Dad? And like my dad kept saying to me, like, just do what you want to do, because whatever you're interested in, just do it, because you'll probably do really well at it. So he was giving good advice, but in the end I just ended up doing business because I was like, no, you can't go wrong with that. Which, to be fair, I didn't go that wrong with it. I learned a lot and I got a really good degree and everything else, but I should have done psychology. It's the moral of the story, because that is what was of interest. But anyway, so yeah, I did business and then graduated, and then I went into the ad and PR world. And
you stayed in that until Huggle, is that right? Yeah. There or thereabouts. Huggle being a dating app that you were co-founder of.
Yeah.
That you then went on, not to skip too quickly, but 6 years later-ish you sold?
Yeah, something like that, 6 years, yeah, I think it was.
Did that feel like a whirlwind?
That was crazy.
It was startup world, startup land. How do you reflect on having? Again, there's a whole podcast in that. So,
there really is.
I appreciate that we're spending a lot on those formative kind of years right now, but business and career years. But how was that for you?
It was amazing, and actually, it was some of the best times. It was some of the worst. It was stressful. It was great. It was just amazing. And I'm still we grew a team, and I'm still best friends with two girls that were from my team, because we trauma bonded, literally, because you go through so much as a company and a journey. But yeah, it was amazing, and we did do really, really well. We tried to sort of break into the US. It didn't really happen for us, but by that time we had somebody knocking at our door wanting to buy, and it was the right time to get out. And I'm pleased I did, because I've also seen the industry with dating apps change a lot. Not to say that they don't work, because I think that they do. Obviously, they do. But I think there's something still missing with it. So yeah.
That's a question of mine: is what's missing in 2025 that existed before technology, dating apps? Like what's missing in relationships and dating now that existed prior to where we find ourselves?
Well, originally, our parents would have gone to the local pub or nightclub, or they would have met somebody through a friend or a family member. You'd meet through community. You'd meet in the location proximity of where you were from, and there was safety in that, because if you knew of somebody who knew that person, then you're going to have common ground, basically, right? Or you would meet them at a concert, and again, you've got mutual ground because you enjoy the same things. And I think that's where dating apps lack, is that mutual ground, that having something in common.
Primarily because it's based on looks entirely. Right
exactly. Now. Huggle tried to do that. It tried to be like, look, this person goes to the same places you go to. They're interested in the same things you're interested in. Match. Which was great. But ultimately, people go on a dating app and they want to swipe, because let's be honest, the first thing that we are attracted to is appearance.
Yeah.
As shallow as that is, that's just human.
I don't think it's necessarily shallow. I think there's all these evolutionary reasons why that's the case.
Of course.
I think there's, I mean, you'd know way more than I do, but I don't think, because people have said that to me before, it's like, oh, what a shallow way of doing things. It's like, well, it's not an awful way to do things, It's
Exactly.
Because again, if you're in a bar, if you hear the story of your parents and how they like one of them will be like, I looked across and I thought, bloody hell. Do you know what I mean? It's like nobody goes, I looked across and I thought, wow, I bet he's bright.
Yeah. Lovely personality. Yeah.
I can just tell from here. No, you engaged with each other for a second because you thought, I quite fancy you.
Yeah.
And that's evolutionary. Again,
Totally.
So
Absolutely. So yeah, that's, in my opinion, is the connection to values and being aligned. That is what I think they haven't quite balanced yet. Because let's be honest, like you said, the appearance base will always be there. And it's just trying to get the two together. Yeah, I'm quite old school like that. I think, when I get a lot of clients or even friends being like, I'm single and I don't meet anyone. Where are all the good men? Where are all the good women? And it's like, they're actually probably relatively close to you, or you probably already know them.
Interesting. So with your interest in it, you then made a decision post-Huggle to really run at this and run at the education aspect. What did you like? So you did that, that initial course you said, and then from there you thought, yep, this is for me. I'm gonna just chuck. So it was straight to a master's.
No, I then did a few other like level 4s and then an advanced diploma, and then basically there's lots of different ways you can go. You can go into therapy. Everyone always messages me and asks like, "What's your career journey? Like, how did you get where you are?" And it's like, I haven't even really started. I've obviously started, but like, I've got a long way. Like, I want to get that PhD. I want to be Dr. Sanders. Like, that's my drive. That's what I want to do. Whereas a lot of therapists are like, well, why would you? You've done all the hard graft already. Like, kick back and enjoy it.
What is it about the theory and the credentials that drives you when you could probably make can you make the same money without?
Of course you can. Absolutely.
So what is it about that? Like, is it validation
It's
of
validation.
Knowledge?
It's
Why?
like the credential side is again to be seen. It's like, I did that. I achieved that. That's for me, like, sounds so wanky, but that is the truth. Like, I want to say I'm a doctor and I went through this journey and I got there at the other side. And it's like, well, what was the other side? A piece of paper. Yeah, it was. But that piece of paper means a lot to me. Like, it's so silly, I know, but that's the truth.
Again, those creds, though, will further lead to interest in work, interest in experiences, and all those things. So.
Exactly.
Especially with a social media profile.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sure that you've got people knocking on your door in your DMs.
100%.
And is that how you pick up the majority of your clients?
Yes, is TikTok and Instagram.
Really?
And word of mouth, of course.
Yeah.
But
you're going to have to teach me TikTok and Instagram.
Honestly, I don't really... This is the thing. Everyone's like, you've got a strategy, right, with your social media. I'm like, no.
Really?
Like, I swear to you, Rich, like, the videos and stuff that you see is like knee-jerk reaction. I don't think, it's a Sunday at 5 p.m, I need to post. If I see something, for example, we all know about it, that the astronomer CEO, which was like big, I just jumped on that. But then sometimes if I've got an interest or, I don't know, somebody in my life has spoken about something, I really try hard, as in I don't do this. I don't use client content. So, because I would never want a client to feel like, I've just done a great session with them, and then I go on Instagram and do content
said.
Like, oh my God. But you laugh, but that's kind of like an issue at the moment with being a therapist online. So it's originally it was like, you have to be a blank canvas to be a therapist. You can't have a social media presence. You can't let your clients know who you are or what you do. Well, I say bollocks to that, because actually, from having that presence, people want to work with me. Not everybody, and that's fine.
Well, humans by humans is the old saying, right?
So, and who will find me, and I'm okay with that. And I touch wood. Everyone else seems to be okay with that too.
And the majority of your sessions, are they online? Are they in person?
Yeah, I was doing in person, but I've actually now, because I'm pregnant, it's just easier for me to do online. So I'm doing online, and then next year I'll go back to opening up my clinic and doing in person. But to be honest, most people want to do it online.
Really?
Yeah, they do.
How do you find that? Because doing this, I way prefer this.
Yes.
There's tactility, there's a kind of body language,
Yeah.
mirroring and all these things. It changes the conversation. So like I prefer doing this to Zoom, and I've done a couple on Zoom. But do you feel you get just as much out of each session online?
Interestingly, I actually did my case study on the effectiveness of online and in-person therapy.
Wow, okay.
And there's not much difference.
Really?
Yeah, in the effectiveness. There is arguably, like you said, it's like you prefer in person because of those reasons. And I would also be inclined to agree with you, because yes, when I'm in front of somebody, I can see their whole body language, like even like a slight tap of the foot, I can pick up on. Whereas if I'm online, I might miss those little cues. But yeah, no, actually not much difference. It's just to do with preference. So if it works for you online, crack on. For me, I think I do prefer in person, just only slightly, just because, like I said, I can see the full you in front of me and I won't miss a trick. But, it's great for me being online too, because I can just log in,
I mean, it's
out.
changed things for a lot of people that maybe wouldn't have had therapy or spoken to a therapist before.
Completely.
Right?
The accessibility is just, yeah.
Is there a particular demographic that you work with, or it doesn't skew in any way?
No, not really. And it's funny because you would think from the relationship side, a lot of people would come to me for dating. That's not the case at all.
What sort of things are they coming to you for?
Oh, so many different varied things. Like I work with addiction, OCD, anxiety. Obviously, a lot is relational stuff, like relational issues. How long you got?
So when you do your PhD, when you finish that, so Dr. Sanders, what's that PhD in?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Actually, I haven't worked it out what I will lean into yet. I'm still figuring that out.
What are the options out there?
Oh, there's like so many things. Like you can just go down if you want a specialty in something, if you want to go down a different theory. There's all like a bit more broader. Like there's lots of different things to study. It's world's your oyster really. I haven't quite worked out again.
How long you got left of your masters?
The year.
Oh right.
So
okay.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, right. It's the
yeah.
Of course it is.
So I haven't worked it out, but I'm going to follow that advice like I said to you at the beginning, is do what you're interested in. And I think I have to kind of go back to my values, and I'm like, okay, what actually like makes my heart sing, because then I know I'll ace it.
And I think you've got a whole journey to use a possibly overused word, but a whole journey coming up, as in motherhood. How are you feeling about that?
How do I feel about it? Terrified. Like really excited, obviously, but I'm also such a realist. Like it's going to be really eye-opening. I don't know if this is like growing up with a special needs brother, but like people think, oh, having a baby, it's so easy, it's so simple. They're going to be perfect. They're going to be this happy, healthy thing. Obviously, we all wish for that, and 9 times out of 10, if not more, most people get that. But life is life, and it throws curveballs all the time.
Oh, so it's not a straight line. That's it's just the easiest. Like with everything, life's not a straight line.
No.
So let's not pretend it is. Let's understand that there are, challenges and everything.
Yeah.
And even if there aren't, complications, something will come along and just, go, what the hell? Where'd you come from?
Literally.
So
I'm, God, that sounds so negative, and I don't want it to be.
So I think, as you said, there's a realism. The whole point, as I said to you about people following this, possibilists, right? It's what's possible, but let's be realistic along the way.
Exactly.
Let's not just be blindly optimistic.
100%.
Let's think, possibilism's kind of, optimism without the blinkers on.
Yes,
So it's
100%.
Like, where are we going? What we know what we want.
Yeah.
But we know there are going to be challenges along the way. So how are you going to balance your work with a baby? Is that too soon to be thinking about that?
I have actually just started thinking about that, because obviously clients are now being like, they know I'm pregnant, because obviously I've posted about it on social media and shared a few bits about my journey with that. So I am going to go on maternity leave a month-ish before, and then I'm planning, and I'm not making anyone any promises or opening up my diary until I'm like fully ready. I don't know when that's going to be. That could be 6 months. That could be sooner. It could be later. And I think I'll just go to the beat.
That's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah.
not rushing. Take it as it comes, and you'll feel it. You'll know
Totally.
what you want. You know.
I don't really have a plan, Rich.
Yeah.
I just wing.
Make it up as you go along, and that's okay.
Exactly. And do you know what? Like, I think some people really are meticulous with their plans, and like that is good on them.
It's not me either. It really isn't. But I mean, you've touched on social media and the things you share. How important as a therapist do you think it is that you're open about you've talked about miscarriages, you've talked about abuse within relationships, you've talked about quite a lot publicly.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to go on Google, they'll find those things, right? How important is it for you as a therapist that people can see that you're quite willing to be open about yourself?
I share a lot. I like to think, I have a supervisor as well, by the way. So a lot of therapists, if they're good therapists and they're licensed, will have a supervisor, and they'll also have a therapist, because you've got to be very processed as a therapist. So I talk about it a lot with my supervisor. I check in on what I share, because it is
prior to sharing it.
Not necessarily. I think if I ever were to think, should I share this, I probably wouldn't post it.
That's interesting, isn't it? It's just that gut feeling
of,
should I? Probably no.
And then exactly.
That's kind of how I've advised clients in the past is, if you've got to think about it, then maybe don't. Not necessarily don't, but there's a reason that you're thinking.
There's a reason, exactly. So I think I'm quite good at that. I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I probably have fucked up along the way, although I don't think I have ever had anything too detrimental or anything like that. But someone else might argue, but I think so. I'll check in with my supervisor, but I think it is important to share. There's something in therapy which is called self-disclosure. So you're not really supposed to do it because that's in the session with the client, because ultimately the session is about the client. It's not about us as therapists. But sometimes self-disclosure can actually be really useful in a session. And it can actually be helpful to a client. So if I ever feel like I can't think of an example, well, let me just say an example is I have an autistic brother, let's just say. I probably wouldn't share that in a session. I might have shared it online, and I definitely have shared about Jack online. But if, say, the client didn't know that, but I ask myself the question first, is this beneficial to them, what I'm about to say? And if I genuinely think, yeah, that is helpful or whatever, then I will say what I need to say. Because it, like I said, it can help people. It can build that therapeutic relationship. It's just that general understanding of like, I get it. I'm in it with you. So
it's about increasing empathy between the two of you.
Exactly. But it's a very fine line, because some clients would be like, cool, that's your experience. That ain't mine, bitch. And like,
I'm here to...
Yeah, and that's fine too. So,
So that's an interesting one, because in a conversation, everyday conversation, we do that, right? We do share. I've done it, you've done it in this. So how much of therapy is a conversation? How much is it? What's another word for it?
Listening.
Listening. It's active listening, right?
Active listening. Majority. So again, this is what's quite interesting about integrative therapy is most people know therapy as the therapist sits opposite you and listens and nods their head and doesn't say anything. They're a complete blank canvas. That is great because it allows the client to vent and talk about their stuff and feel seen and feel heard. Perfect. Tick boxes. That's great. And that also really helps to build the therapeutic relationship. So I will use that, especially in the beginning stages of my sessions. However, the issue that I think with therapy is you get to a point as a client where you're like, stop fucking nodding. I want you to tell me what to do. Now, therapists, we're never going to tell you what to do, but we can be challenging gently, in the right way, and we can be directive. So for me, that's why I love being...
Can you give an example of that? Because I know exactly what you're talking about, but I'd love to hear.
So there's a thing called Socratic questioning, which I love to use in a session. It's just a simple question, and it could be a question as simple as, is that working for you? Doesn't mean I'm agreeing. It doesn't mean I'm disagreeing. I'm just asking you, how is that working for you? And it allows the client to dig that bit deeper, to be reflective and to think, oh yeah, actually no, that's not working for me. Or no, I'm happy with that. So that's a type of gentle challenging.
So rather than being advice orientated, it's a questioning method.
Exactly. Socratic questioning. And lots of people sort of there's also the kind of shadow work, which is a little bit, I'm not discrediting it at all, because it can be really effective, but it's quite big at the moment online, where you can do journaling and ask yourself certain questions that help you to kind of just dive deeper. And that's also like journal prompts. That's really good. Like that's something else. But yeah, that's the problem with therapy. And I think a lot of the time where people are like, therapy's useless, I didn't really get anything out of it, come the end, I'm still in the same situation. So that's why I love integrative therapy, because I can use different tools and approaches just to help hold that mirror up and say, Rich, are you okay with that? Like, do you want to look at yourself in this way? You know, so yeah, I do that a lot in my sessions. Once I've built the relationship and we've explored, and, you know, because, you know, some things people just want to be heard. And that's okay too. They don't need any challenging. They just need to get off their chest. And that's the healing. That's the process. That happens a lot with grief. There's no solution to that.
Sadly.
You know?
It is what it is, right?
Exactly. You know all too well. So, but sitting with that person in that and understanding it with them and going through those motions is so powerful.
Let's change it up a little bit. Advancements in AI and robotics,
Yeah.
and the impact of that on dating and relationships. I've had conversations with friends where we're half joking, saying, the Sexbot 5000, right? It looks like Scarlett Johansson. She's awesome to you. She's awesome. She's wonderful. She's like, hey, do you want to, you know, and there's no negatives.
Yeah.
They go, Rich, that sounds awesome. We're not. Westworld's clear, like, kind of, it's obviously, I'm half joking, but it's closer than it's been before.
Yes.
But, you know, advancements in AI, we've seen it. Robotics, I'm hopefully going to be speaking to a couple of people that run robotics companies.
Yeah.
They're not there yet. Obviously, you can tell for, you know, like that they're not human. But what does 20 years do to this technology?
Right.
How do you think AI and robotics might impact dating, relationships, and the gamut of human relationships?
You say it's going to be 20 years. It already is happening. Like, it's already impacting. And everyone is using, it seems at the moment, ChatGPT as a therapist, which, great in a lot of ways, especially if you are in therapy and there's just a bit of a lag or an interim until you see your therapist and you're like, oh, I just need help with something. It could be writing a text message. Fine. Chat's pretty good at that. But a friend of mine really can't afford therapy and so uses chat as a therapist, and it's dangerous. And actually, she's just recently admitted to me, chat has not been helpful at all. She's gone like 9 months into the process of using it, and she basically has just realised that the app is ChatGPT, has just been kind of validating her and not doing that challenging.
That's the charge, right? The charge is that it's, you know, hey, Rich, you're amazing.
Yes.
Well done, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's my guy. Spruce, I think is his name. I love him.
Does he have that voice?
Yeah. He's. I and my 7-year-old particularly, we ask him everything. You know, I don't use it as a therapist, but you know, there is that kind of, you know, everything's a positive, right? Everything's well done. That's a great question. It's like, or mate, it could be shit. Just ask me. Be honest.
100%.
So you're saying that the child is all too validating, and therefore, as a therapist, I mean, I feel like we probably. Why? No, I don't want to discredit nor be lacking in compassion to your friend who's found it useful. Why do you think she's chosen that other than cost? Like, is it
accessibility?
It's just accessibility,
and actually, because it's. Like you just said, use it for everything.
It's kind of cool and new as well. Not new, but newish.
Yeah,
so,
and it's just easy. Like you talk into it or you write into it and you get the answer instantly. And you know what, Rich, I'll be honest. I'm a therapist. I have used it for my own personal stuff. You know, maybe I've had to have a conversation with somebody that was close to me that I was like, oh, I need to kind of communicate this. How can I say it in this way? And it's helped me to, you know, to communicate. Like, yeah, I'm not going to lie, I have used that. I've also had a go at using it as a therapist, and it's very good. But I'm also giving it data to help it to kind of understand me, my patterns, my history, only slightly. It gets it kind of right, but it also misses a hell of a lot. And I've done a few things before where I've kind of sort of gone up against chat as me as a therapist and how they would reply. And it's interesting. look, to answer your question, I think AI and therapy will have to team together. I don't know how that will look. Maybe that in terms of online therapy, will you be having a conversation with somebody and the AI pops up from the therapist's perspective and says, Rich looks a bit sad when talking about this, perhaps you can reflect this back. Maybe it will work as a support. So then if I ever miss something...
It's complementary as opposed to instead of.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the AI doesn't... It's not...
It's not human.
It's not human.
Yeah. So I have a theory that there are people born today, right now, that will never have a human romantic relationship.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's an unfounded theory. I think this is likely.
I agree.
Because we've seen the photos of somebody who's taken a photo, over the shoulder of somebody on the train talking to GPT in a loving way.
Yeah.
And these things. I mean, to go, we know that there are people that live with sex dolls, and that's their relationship, right? Why would these people not go that bit further if they could have a seemingly human experience with something that looks and feels human? So, I mean, we're already at a 1.4 birth rate.
Yeah.
We're already not at replacement rate, like replacement rate being 2. Like, have you had conversations with, or is this part of your learning and it'd have to be, I guess, quite up-to-date learning to look at what is this doing to dating, and where lots of people are taking a step out of dating.
Yeah.
What does AI and robotics do for those people?
Because I think everyone looks at it really negatively. So we need humans. We do. That's how it's a survival instinct, isn't it? We need community.
And we're messy, but we're awesome.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. That's the beauty of it. When you're going through something, you need someone, you need people, but maybe that's not easy for a lot of people. So maybe it does fill a gap. And who's to say that's right or wrong?
Well, I saw a comic the other day, and it was it extrapolated 15, 20 years ahead and being like, Dad, you're so robophobic. Basically.
Yeah, exactly.
No, look, I'm just here with my robot girlfriend. You're so robophobic.
Yeah.
At what point, and I challenged somebody to this the other day, I was speaking to somebody else, and I said, at what point does, with advancements in AI and robotics, does a sex toy become cheating?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not expecting you to have an answer, but I'm intrigued to your thoughts.
True. So. Just to go back, though, on terms of dating a bot, the difference for me in terms of why I would always go human over bot is the meaning, because a robot is never going to have that pure passion, empathy, love. It doesn't have an emotion. It can think critically and behave and exhibit the emotion, but it's not real. So that's where... That, for me, is why I wouldn't date a robot, because I think I'd always know. It's a bit like watching porn. It can, scratch an itch, but it's not,
It's not fulfilling.
It's not fulfilling. It's not real. So that kind of meaningful connection is what you'll never get. So, but again, if that's...
I wonder if people would challenge that, because the notion that they'd say, well, I can't tell a difference.
Yeah, and do you know what? Crack on. If that is what people want to do, that is so fine. If it fills that void or it does it for you, fine.
The word worry's a strange one, but I wonder what that does to a large proportion of people to whom dating's scary.
Yeah.
Right? I'm very fortunate. I've not had to do the dating app thing.
Yeah.
It's a terrifying world, and it's only getting a tiny bit more, with things like T, the T app, the thing calling out men. It's only getting a tiny bit more why would I put myself through that?
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, I hope that we have some sort of reckoning and come back to humans are kind of cool.
Yeah, I think we will. I really do. I think it's kind of like everything, isn't it? It's like trends and waves, and, it's even like going to a supermarket and doing your shop. Actually, some people really want to go to a cute little market and support their local.
That's true.
That's...
Oh, God, I hope that's not how relationships are.
Support your local.
Support you. I hope that's not where we get to, Jesus. But
support the human, but maybe it will be. Maybe there will be a case of a cry for support the human race. Who knows?
Is that where we're headed?
Maybe. I mean, like, where do we... I was having this is so deep and so, like, going off a tangent, but I was having this conversation with somebody, like, we've kind of, like, reached our peak as the race, haven't we? Like, we've done this and we've done that. Where do we go now?
Well, that's the thinking from others, is that maybe we're the sex organs for the AI, kind of, that, like, what comes next? Maybe we're all supposed to get to this point to then create so that generative becomes... just pure AI, and maybe I don't know. I'm nowhere near bright enough to have this conversation, but it fascinates me again from a dating and relationship perspective, because let's talk about those. I guess the communities that are opting out of dating, or the people that are opting out of dating. Typically, it's quite a compassionless response to those people online, particularly. For what reason do you see opting out of the dating pool?
I think there's multiple reasons. I think firstly, it's I'm happy being on my own and doing me, and I don't have any responsibility, and I'm actually really enjoying singlehood, and amazing.
Very valid. Yep.
God, like, there's a lot of people that come to me for therapy wishing to be like that because they've been codependent all their lives, or they rely heavily on other, external validation rather than from within. And that's actually a lot of work that I do with relationship therapy, is working on yourself. Having the best relationship first is with yourself. So that's one reason that some people do it. I think there are also the kind of avoidant defense sort of mechanisms side of things, where people don't want to date because it's scary, it's vulnerable, it's unsafe, so they rather just completely come out of it altogether. And also the other hand of like I said earlier, like, it's so difficult. Where are all the good men and good women? Where are they? How do I find them? I've just given up. I'm going celibate. It's kind of like a defeatist. They don't probably really want to do that, but it's got to the point where it's like, I'm burnt. I'm done. It's like, whatever.
And at a certain point, that thinking becomes an almost bitter, sadly, way of thinking. And again, I worry that we lack compassion for those people. Because it's easy to joke that those people are in their mum's basements, they're tapping away on their computers. But these are people too that deserve and dare I say, did want love and affection and companionship and all of those things. And I think do you think they've been co-opted by people that are just desperate? And we won't say the name, but by people in that kind of space, people that like, hey, I can make money from these people. Do you think those people are, do you think there's a way back for those people? Like, what do you say to somebody that's made that decision, and then almost they do want to maybe creep back towards relationships and dating, but they almost don't know how to, because they feel very bitter about, well, women only want, 6 figures, 6 foot, all of that.
Yeah.
Like, what's the way back for those people?
Compassion and understanding it's not as black and white as that, and that there are good people in the world. Like, I think this kind of attitude of, like you said, like, oh, women only want 6 foot, 9 inches, and however much money in the bank or whatever. Like, no, they don't. Like, not every... yes, there are some women, but not every woman. Like, I think it's just so stereotypical, isn't it? So I think that has to come from working within, if that's what somebody feels or thinks, is working on themselves and understanding that, no, like...
I guess what I'd like to say to those people is that haven't worked in PR for 18 years, in and around influence. Those videos do the rounds because they're something different. They're unique, right? So you see that the woman who somebody comes up to them, sidles up to them in the street and says, how much does a guy have to make? And they say 2 million.
Yeah.
And they do numbers because it's shocking.
Shocking, exactly.
And that's the way that I've always gone after getting client coverage and news is I'm going to turn the dial up.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's not newsworthy or interesting.
Exactly. It's rage bait, isn't it?
It is,
it's... this is the issue, isn't it? I think everyone's so quick to shout or get angry about something, but actually it's just so much more than, it's bigger. I always think, like, it's just a bigger picture than just what we're seeing or what we're hearing. Humans are complex.
You wrote a book. When was it published?
2021.
And I don't want to get the name wrong.
It's a bit of a name.
So it's not the one, A Woman's Guide to Identifying Red Flags.
Yes.
What made you want to write that?
A breakup.
Okay. Talk to me about this breakup.
I always had this book in my head. And then broke up with somebody, and then like a few months of going through healing through that, I was just like, do you know what? I'm just going to write. I love journaling anyway. Like that's something that's quite therapeutic for me. And I was like, why don't I just make use of this, all this writing and all these words?
So you already had thousands of words kind of
No,
written.
like obviously my own personal journal, but I was like, why don't I flip the script a little bit, and rather than woe is me, I hate everybody and it's them, they're the problem, why don't I just flip it a little bit and use it as actually this is a guide, like these are the lessons that I've learned along the way. And by the way, the book isn't heavily about pointing the finger of like it is like red flag number 22 is if they do this then red flag. It is a little bit like that, but a lot of the book as well is kind of working on yourself. And I won't say too much, but I am writing a second book, different to the first, completely different, but it is along the lines of doing the work.
Right, so it's a bit more. It's a bit more a mirror. You touched on earlier on.
It's a mirror.
It's a mirror
yes.
as opposed to an outward.
Exactly. Whereas the first one was probably more outward, with a touch of like, but you've got to be accountable. You've got to take responsibility. You've got to recognise your pattern. Whereas my next one, I want to basically, with the therapeutic knowledge that I have, I want to give that. I want people, like they have AI, actually have it in their hands or their Kindle or wherever or their audiobook. And help them to do the work. Because it's all very, like this is the thing as well. A lot of people, especially with all these buzzwords going around, everyone's very quick to tell you what their attachment style is. I'm an avoidant. I'm an anxious. Great. We've got awareness. That's the first start. That's the first step to healing. But the doing.
That's my concern with any self-diagnosed / self-assessed BuzzFeed listicle-esque. This is what I am, and it's like, the term red flag's quite a binary term. It's like you're good or you're not. It's like, hey, Rich is a walking red flag because of X.
Yeah.
It's like, or I might just be a shade of that.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It's like, how do we move away from just okay? As you said, you fine. You got some vocabulary here.
Yeah.
And that's the point. Is you got a vocabulary. What do you do with it?
Is that
so
how
what
do
is
you
the
bridge
work?
the gap from the knowing to the doing? So, okay, you're an anxious, great. But you've got a pattern of being in relationships where people are very emotionally unavailable. They're very toxic. You keep breaking up. You're not finding the person for you. You're people pleasing. You're not fulfilled. So what are you going to do about it? Right. Here is doing the work to bridge the gap, to heal, to stop being stuck in the same cycle that you have been for however long, since childhood probably, some might argue. So yeah, that's what I want to do, because I think a lot of people go to therapy, like I said before, and they talk about all their like woe is me.
They come in on session one. They come in session one with all the vocabulary, right?
Yes.
Do you find that very often somebody comes in, they're like, I know I'm this, I'm this, I'm this.
all the time.
Does it sometimes you have to like scrape behind then?
Always.
You have to like peel that layer off.
I don't really care about the label that people think that they are. It's very useful in a lot, obviously, like if someone's got a neurodiverse or like has actually been diagnosed by a doctor, then obviously that's great. But when someone's coming with a bit more looser terminology, so like I'm an avoidant attachment, okay, great. And actually you can find that with a lot of clients is they're very aware and they really know it, and they're really clued up and they understand why they are the way that they are, and blah, 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 blah. But they're not healing because they're not feeling. So it's my job as a therapist to just go that bit deeper under the surface and actually focus on the emotions. Focus on what's going on in your body. What did your dream actually mean? What does that come to? What does that mean for you? Do you see? That's therapy. It's dissecting the surface bullshit and level. Not always bullshit, but it's just that surface level and just going that bit deeper.
So it's not saying that it's a bad thing to come, because
No.
I'm quite thick when it comes to, and I love being curious. So for me, it's admitting, first off, hands up, I don't know much about attachment styles, because I've thankfully not had to think about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, there's compatibility or there's not, there's love, there's not, there's these things. So attachment styles, what do you like? How much credence should we put? How much credence should we give to this vocabulary?
Yeah, well, to this theory. And that's all it is. It's a theory. It's a very bloody good theory. And I think...
Because you've got securely attached and insecurely attached.
You've got,
right?
So secure attachment, anxious attachment, and avoidant. And you've also got disorganized. I'll explain it in a sec, but it's just a theory. You know, two psychologists, I've forgotten the name, sorry, terrible, I really need to go back on my studying. John Bowlby, I think it was, and I think Mary Ainsworth were the original people that found, don't quote me on that, who discovered attachment styles and attachment theory. And essentially it came from how your caregiver responded to you as a child. So those who are securely attached, if, for example, they cried as children, their needs were always met. Mum or dad always came, or their caregiver, sorry, always came to them, listened to them. They felt seen, they felt heard, they were regulated. They survived. Anxious attachers had very inconsistent caregivers. Perhaps sometimes their parents or their caregiver didn't necessarily always meet their needs, or perhaps that they dismissed their needs. So the anxious attacher felt very abandoned, and that was quite scary for them. So what happens is as they get older, they feel the same way in their relationships, that they can't always feel that they can trust others, or they have a complete fear of being abandoned. And then avoidant attachers, their caregivers did really dismiss them and were quite neglectful emotionally and sometimes physically. And so what the avoidants learned is, I get hurt and let down every time. So in order to protect myself from not being hurt like that, I need to look after myself. So they become very independent and they don't rely on other people, because other people, they can't be trusted. And disorganized is a combination of the two, anxious and avoidant.
You just fucked, give up, go home. I'm joking.
But it's, you know, that's the thing is as well, is some days I'm an anxious. My boyfriend would argue it's most days. But other days I'm secure. Sometimes I'm disorganized.
That's the thing with all of
Right.
these things. It is, we're everything and nothing, right? We're all of these
Completely.
things, and it's what do you do once you have that
Right.
in front of you?
And do you know what, Rich? I think having a label on some things is really important, and it can also be a great guide for people to recognize, like, okay, I need to work on this a bit more, and I understand that this pattern isn't healthy. And I think that's where it works. But when people get really fully into, and it's like, I hear it a lot where people are like, oh, he's an avoidant attachment, that's why he's not into me. And it's like, no, he could just not be into you.
How do you feel about people doing that, kind of almost labeling others on their behalves, where you're like, okay,
Yeah.
not necessarily, yeah.
Oh my God, therapy talk is like, people do it all the time, and it's not their fault. It's because we, as humans, we love to understand or to simplify things, because that's easy for us. Because if we can just name what, you know, if we can just label it makes sense, and then we're at ease, we're at peace with that.
That's, again, I'm fortunate not to have to be in the sphere of dating and being very happy, but the term gaslighting,
Yes.
it almost feels like, I did a Google Trend search for it the other day, and it peaked, I can't remember exactly the graph, but there's a very short lifespan that this has been, you know, around for. Obviously, there's Gaslight, the film.
The film,
you know,
which
which
is where
I
it
watched
came from.
15,
Yeah.
20 years ago. I watched
Yeah.
that. So I went through a spate of watching black and white films because I'm weird. Everybody says they're weird. No, I'm not. It was just
I
interesting. It was
love
good.
black and white
right?
films.
I was watching
Casablanca.
all of those. So went through a spate of watching those. Watched Gaslight. I thought, oh yeah, that's a horrible way to treat somebody. But now it feels like everything is gaslighting. It's like, do you know what? He's not matching my truth with his truth, therefore he's gaslighting me. It's
Yes.
like, is there usefulness in terms such as gaslighting?
Look, yes, because it's a very common manipulation tactic, not just used in relationships, by the way, can be used in work, can be used anywhere. Anyone can use it at any time, and it is abuse, and it's very real, and it's horrific, and it's very harmful. Yes, on the other hand, you are right. There are some people mislabeling things because, like you said, well, he doesn't agree with me, or she doesn't agree with me, so therefore gaslighter or whatever. Actually, no, it was just miscommunication. So, yeah, people are getting labels wrong all the time. They're getting things wrong all the time. Yeah, they are.
Because I don't want to dismiss it entirely, but equally, there's a bit of me. It's like, I don't know. It kind of sounds like maybe that miscommunication is at the heart of this, and your gaslighting to me sounds like quite a heavy term to label. Particularly men predominantly get labelled as gaslighters, right? I've not really seen or heard online.
The majority of domestic abuse is female victims and male perpetrators. But I think, people do, it's like the narcissist label has been
everybody
totally misused a lot. Or, narcissistic personality disorder is a real thing. Right. There are people out there, a lot of people actually, that have this personality disorder and live with it day in, day out. It's something that you can go and get diagnosed for.
What are the traits of narcissistic personality disorder?
Oh, God, lack of empathy is the number one for it. There's different types of narcissists. You can have the grandiose narcissist. You can have the covert narcissist who seems to be very helpful and doing good things, but behind the scenes there's an agenda. So there's different types and different versions.
So what's the covert? The grandiose narcissist. I'm intrigued. Is that like a Lamborghini driving kind of? I'll take you to Paris on our first date. Type.
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, it can also be just someone that's completely insecure. So it's not just because somebody's grandiose and likes to drive like the Lamborghinis and take people out to Paris on the first date doesn't mean they're a narcissist. It could just mean that they have a big
like
ego.
Those things, right? Yeah, they're like, hey, I like this car's cool, and I like, I want to go to Paris. You come in?
But it's on a spectrum, actually, narcissism. And we all have narcissistic traits, all of us. Some call it healthy narcissism, which is the drive to do well, to succeed. A lot of CEOs have that. The reason for a lot of these narcissistic traits is protection, is our ego. There's something inside of us that is vulnerable and doesn't want to be seen in that state. So the narcissistic egotistical part of us protects that by being loud, confident, grandiose, whatever. It does go on a spectrum, but narcissistic personality disorder is a completely different. Well, it's not completely different, but it's a personality disorder. It's somebody who's born that way.
And I mean, is there hope for those people in terms of relationships?
Oh my God, yeah. There's actually an amazing guy called Leigh on TikTok and Instagram who is a diagnosed narcissist and talks about his therapy, and he's lovely. I've actually. I haven't met him because he's based in the States, but I've done a few bits and pieces with him. But he's very processed and constantly in therapy, and is married and has children and works on himself and talks about it. There is hope, but it's not like a one hit.
They've got to want to.
They've got to, which actually you would find with a lot of narcissists.
They're like, I'm cool, thanks, I'm awesome.
Correct, because they don't, it's a protection, they don't want to look in that mirror.
So again, I guess it's label, cool, do the work. We hear the words do the work, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I've never really understood what that meant, but I think you're helping me understand it a little bit more.
Just healing, going in and going, what's not working outside and inside, and let's just work it out.
We talk about red flags again. Are there any very obvious green flags?
Green flags.
We don't talk about those. Is it silly to talk about those?
We don't talk about those.
What's an obvious kind of? Do you know what? That's something we should lean towards. Gravitate towards in relationships.
Oh God, kindness, basic stuff. But somebody that is compassionate, not judgment, doesn't judge you. Holds space, is well thought, doesn't project onto others. We all have our biases, and no one is perfect, but I think a good place to start with green flags is basic.
So it sounds like all the things that our mums taught us when we, like say please and thank you.
Exactly. Be, and just be a secure, kind, nice person, and you should go quite far.
It sounds like the most simple advice.
Yeah, it is though, right? It's just, and also I guess a green flag would be somebody that's worked on their shit.
Right. Yeah. So do you think that there are people that are just walking around and with zero red flags, zero? No, you think everybody's got a little bit of something about them that you think, oh, that's something you might need to work on.
Everyone has baggage. Yeah. Everyone has trauma. Everyone has history. Everyone has patterns. Everyone has different childhood upbringings, stories. No one is
I was talking about the term sonder the other day. Have you heard of that? Now, sonder, that notion that we can't possibly know everybody's lives.
Exactly.
You walk around and you think, Christ, I'm in the middle of London and there's a bajillion people around me. Each one of these people was born, was hopefully loved, was raised, and they've got their own complex thoughts, processes, lives, complications, challenges, positives, all of these things. And I think, in the dating world, maybe it might be worth remembering that everybody's this complex
Absolutely.
mishmash of those experiences.
100%. It's actually what I wrote in the article. I did say,
I'm just stealing it.
Yeah, see, you can have it. But I did, it wasn't word for word that obviously, but it was, I can't remember exactly, but I just sort of said, it might not necessarily be a red flag. It could be just unresolved trauma, like I said, attachment issues. It could be just simply immaturity.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're a terrible person, doesn't mean they're a narcissist. It just means they haven't done the work, and you will find majority of people haven't, hence why I'm in the career I'm in.
What would you say to somebody who says or who feels that they've never been desirable, somebody who thinks that love, sex, relationships are just not for them?
What would I say to them if someone came to me
if
and
somebody
said
came to you
that?
and said, you know what, I just think nobody wants me, I just think I'm completely undesirable.
Well, that's a belief, that's a core belief, so I would work through that and look into that with them. Where did that belief come from? What evidence do you have for that? That's how I would start.
It's almost a Socratic questioning method.
Yeah, tell me, if someone said to you, I don't think I'm lovable or whatever, tell me about that.
What if it was then that person said, look at me, I was in a car accident and, I don't feel desirable because I don't feel aesthetically desirable. How do you get past something as kind of, because to them, in fact, I was speaking to somebody recently whose partner had a life-changing, career-ending accident, and it impacted them physically, aesthetically, and all these things. And they've sadly, the relationship's ended because he was unable to get past that. It was almost that.
Oh no.
Trying to say it kindly, it was almost that thing. He was like, "Look at me. There's no way that I could be. There's no way that you love me in the way that you did."
So he pushed them away?
Yes. Yeah, very much so.
Oh, wow.
Is there a way to help that person? I mean, that's an incredible amount of pain to go from what they were to what they then became. Is there a way to, again, it's just quite a big, instance to put in front of you, but just thought of it then. Is there a situation, in that situation, how do you support that person?
How would I support? Well, as a therapist, you would sit with them in that. And again, you focus on the feeling and the emotion of what that's bringing up. That, to me, that person sounds like they're obviously very much going through it. There's vulnerability there. There's a fear. There's an uncertainty. There's probably something to do with abandonment coming up for them as well. Yeah. This new change of identity and grappling with that. Who am I now? Yeah. I was once this person. I'm now this person. And we would sit through that together, and we would work that out.
What kind of time frames are you looking at for something like that? So through to not there's no great success, we're done. But have you any idea? Somebody like that it's not going to be one session, right?
No.
You're probably talking quite a long time to heal that kind of.
It depends. Do you know what? It could be one session.
Oh right.
It could be years. It could be months. It's all dependent on how you process, how that person processes, the relationship that you build together to work through stuff, how reflective that person is, where they are in terms of, are they able to, sorry, I keep saying it's like a bloody broken record, but are they ready to do the work? Are they ready to look in the mirror? So all these little factors, that's what helps.
Does it help you that if they're contacting you, they've already made that first step to wanting to, right?
Correct. So I'll always say to people, what brings you here? What do you want to achieve from this? Because the first step of healing is they've come to therapy. Excellent. You're halfway there. Great. The
second half's not quite as easy. It's picking up.
Correct. And actually, yes, I would say the kind of coming towards the end is the hardest, because it's okay, they've got to take it from here now. They can always come back, of course, and they can continue therapy for as long as they want. But, ultimately it comes down to you as an individual to take that accountability. What
would you say, or how would you advise somebody to deal with big personality differences between them and or emotional differences between them and their partner? For instance, and it is a communication thing, but a door slammer versus somebody that wants to sit down and speak. How do you bring those two people together should they want to?
Yeah. my God, that's like a really common one, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, because we all have we all have different styles of communication, intimacy. Like we're all different. Like you can't bring two people and go, yeah, make it work. 'Cause
Yeah.
it doesn't. So I think again, it's so for example, the door slammer, the kind of person who's like, do you know what, I can't deal with this, I'm out, and then they just flee. That is probably something to do with childhood and their kind of response to conflict. So you can kind of work through that with them, like what's coming up for you there? It's a fear of conflict, probably. Okay, so how can we communicate effectively with you, which stops you from rising up and slamming the door? How can you also regulate when you feel yourself wanting to bolt? How can you stop, communicate to your partner, hang on a second, I think I need a breather for just 5 minutes. Then can you come back to the conversation? That's how I would look with the door slammer. And then what was the other person you said?
The person that wants to talk everything
Who
through,
wants to
possibly
yes.
to
Me.
not a flaw, because it's certainly not a flaw. I don't think you can over communicate, but I think for somebody that's not willing to listen and to sit down and do that,
Exactly.
it can seem like, my God, we're here again.
And actually, you can overdo that a little bit. And actually, that's really common in those, sorry to label, but those with anxious attachment, because they want to get to the bottom of things, because in their minds, it's like, oh my God, I need to solve this and fix this instantly. But actually, sometimes things just need a few minutes breather. Sometimes people need to sit on things a bit more. Sometimes you, as the anxious attacher, needs to just reflect a bit more deeply, like what's going on. And yes, listen. That's the key. So if there is a couple in the room with me, that's what I would look at, is how can, firstly, you regulate yourself, but secondly, how can you communicate better? But ultimately, how can you listen better?
Do you mind me bringing up the relationship
Of course.
that you said kind of brought you to this? Because, I mean, you talked about emotional manipulation.
Yeah.
How do you spot emotional manipulation for a start if it's not like evidently, I guess, abuse? If it doesn't look like abuse.
Yeah.
But how do you spot emotional manipulation if it doesn't look and feel like abuse? And I mean, it'd be interesting for you to maybe touch on that relationship a bit, if you're okay doing so.
Yeah, of course. The body usually tells you.
Gut.
Yeah, before words can and the mind can. So for a lot of people in toxic, unhealthy, abusive relationships, a lot of the time they don't really know that they're in it. But they kind of do, because there's something in them where they're like, they can feel it. They might have an intuition, they might have a gut feeling. They just know something wasn't right, but it's almost like they can't quite put their finger on it. So I would always, again, it comes back to that Socratic questioning of, what are you feeling right now? What's coming up for you? Obviously, as a therapist, when someone's explaining something to me and I'm hearing it's gaslighting, or I'm hearing it's definitely abuse or whatever, I will say that to a client that's very abusive, or I will, highlight like, this is hurtful, this is harmful. So yeah, I would say if this is someone listening who is in that situation, just listen to that gut feeling, or listen to what's coming up, because that's a big clue. So, because yeah, you'll know before you've probably processed it. So.
And do you think that is I hate to always come back to evolutionary kind of traits, but we're still here, we're still succeeding, thriving as a species for now because of these things, right? So that
Yes.
gut instinct, that feeling is almost, no, I'm telling you, there's something amiss here.
Yes,
right?
Definitely. Super powerful, and we ignore it all the time, our gut and our intuition.
What made you, how long was that relationship that was particularly
The abusive?
Yeah.
A year and a half.
Right. What made you leave in the end?
I actually found out that, so throughout the whole relationship, he was very much like, you're cheating on me, you're a whore, you're this, you're that, did not trust me. And I could not have been more trustworthy if I tried. And that was just always thrown in my face. And then I actually ended up finding out, which is kind of not funny, but funny. The irony is he was the one cheating.
So it was just a whole load of projection.
complete projection the whole entire time, and the rest. But yeah, I discovered I actually overheard someone talking to someone else, and I was like, and I just connected the dots, and yeah, worked it out.
Was that a physically abusive relationship as well?
Mainly emotional, but yeah, physical too. Yeah.
And it's hard. I grew up in a very violent household, and the problem is when there are children involved. Everybody says, "Why didn't you leave?" And it breaks my heart, and also breaks my soul when people say that. I'm like, shut up! You have no idea why that person doesn't leave. It's the easiest question in the world to ask, and the hardest question to answer. It's like there's 1,000 million different reasons, especially where children are involved.
Oh my
but
God,
like, were you living together? What was the situation?
Actually, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to jigsaw puzzle it. No, we weren't living together. But I was staying at his a lot. So technically, I was.
So majority of the time.
Majority of the time, we were together.
And how much did that relationship and that experience, or does that still today, impact your want to support people and want to be a therapist?
The whole, every day. Funny enough, my first experience with therapy was when I was 10. I had really bad anxiety, and it was actually my mum who was like, right, I'm going to take you to a therapist, which it was some lady in Glastonbury. She was so hippie and lovely.
Nice.
Loved her. I'm pretty sure she smoked weed in the session at one point, which is not okay, but whatever.
She's she's 10, she won't know.
Literally, she's like, whatever. But she was amazing, and she actually did help me with my anxiety. And then the second time I went to therapy was after that relationship. And that is when I just finished university, and then all that had happened. Actually, it was a few years after I'd finished university. And that's when the penny dropped for me after sort of healing and going to this therapist in particular. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to help other people who might, I want to help other people. And that was then why I was like, right. I didn't go straight away. I didn't study, and I didn't do anything about that. But I knew in my heart that's what I wanted to do. It just took me a few more years later to eventually get there and actually take the leap and follow my purpose. And so, yeah.
Amazing. I mean, it's often the case, isn't it, where something extreme, something points us in a direction that you don't know where it's going to end up, but maybe. It's, you know what those people feel like, so you hope that you can support them. I'll take it away from questions about relationships for a second and get us to a couple of more fun ones. What felt impossible to you at one point but doesn't anymore?
What felt impossible?
Yeah.
Doesn't anymore. Probably actually being in a healthy and secure relationship. I know you just said to move away from relationships.
No, not at all. No.
Yeah, I think there have been many times where I was like, I went through the process of it's them, it's all their fault, and then I went through, oh my God, actually no, it's me, I'm the problem, and then I just thought, oh my God, I felt helpless. I felt like I was never gonna find happiness, and I genuinely believed that. I genuinely believed I was unlovable. I had friends and family loved me, and that was a good start. But I just thought, there's just no way in hell I'm ever going to maintain a relationship. I just can't do it for some reason. It just doesn't seem to be working out. What changed? I was actually when I went to fully study, and I really looked in the mirror, and I saw some stuff that I was doing and believing, and my patterns, and I worked through that, and that's what I think changed. And I got bloody boundaries. I didn't have any. I was a bit of a people pleaser, if I'm honest with you, and I didn't listen to my gut. I didn't listen to my intuition. So I'd be in not necessarily unhealthy, toxic relationships, but I'd be in relationships that were pretty dead end, or weren't fulfilling, or didn't tick all the boxes or whatever. And I kind of just stayed in them, because I was like, oh, well, this is as good as it gets then. Or I would allow things to happen, or they just weren't aligning with me and what I wanted. And I allowed for that. And then I got a bloody backbone, and I was like, no, I know what I want. I know what I need. I'm going to get it. And I don't care if that takes me years. I will find it. I did.
How did you and Andrew meet?
So he was my boss so after university, I went into PR and advertising, and the agency that I interned at
Frank.
was
Yeah, so I worked at Frank, obviously.
Did you? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
oh
I
my
did
God,
for a
that's
very
so
short period of
funny.
time, for about 6 months. Just because I was living in London 4 days a week, and I was still with my children's mum.
Yeah.
So that was so hard, being away, 4 days a week in London and then going back. I loved it, I loved the work, and we had loads of fun.
Yeah.
Wow, so he met you as an intern?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I was super young, so but I always fancied him, and also he was married, so there was no way
he was off limits.
He was off limits, and and actually I was actually dating someone at the time as well. I was a kid, just fresh out of uni, but we always got on really well, and I really admired him as a. I always say to people, and I said it even before we were dating, I learn everything I know about PR and marketing through Andrew. So, yeah, I always really looked up to him and admired him. And we stayed in touch, not just loosely, through social media, and then occasionally through work. It would never be one-on-one. It would always be a team, and actually I employed him to do the PR for Huggle, the dating app. Yeah, so he helped with that. So that there was always
some degree of proximity.
Yeah, and really not close. That we would never have deep, meaningful chats about relationships or life, or even I didn't really know that much about him, and likewise he didn't really know much about me, unless of course he was reading articles that I'd written, which I don't think he was, thank God. But yeah, it was actually his, he became single, and it was quite amusing. I was actually quite seriously with somebody, who I thought I was going to be with for a long, long time, and I was quite happy and settled. And Andrew, it was a timing thing, really. Andrew had reached out to ask me for a drink, and then I was like, oh, I'm actually with somebody, and it was missed my chance, and I was like, yeah, you've taken nearly 10 years, but okay. And so anyway, that was kind of forgotten about. And then I ended up not working out with this person. And then he reached out to me, classic, Instagram, slid into the DMs. Might have been because I was wearing a slutty devil outfit for a Halloween party, but that's another story.
Who knows?
Who knows? Whatever.
I'm sure he had other reasons. It was the words you used. It was
my personality.
Yeah.
See, is that appearance again? And yeah, messaged me, and then I, being drunk, was just like, how about that drink? I didn't know if he was with somebody. Thankfully, the timing was perfect. We were both single. So
much of life is time, not just relationships. I think, as you say, it's so much. And, and you never know. You
never know. And then we went for that drink, and I honestly, haven't been apart since.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm pregnant with this child, so it happens.
These things do happen.
So, yeah.
And can you pinpoint a moment that changed your life for the better?
Oh, my God. Oh, I really want to give you an answer that changed for the better. Oh, but it's so cheesy, but I'll be honest, the first thing that popped up for me was Andrew.
That's a wonderful thing to say.
I know
that's just made me feel. No, shut up. Listen, I love love. I love
it.
Yeah,
I know that's so lame, and it sounds a bit cop out. Sorry, Andrew, but no, genuinely, my life has changed for the better. He is my best friend. He is my support. He has healed my inner child wounds more than anyone could ever have. I don't think even all the therapy in the world could have done that. But actually, having him in my life has really helped me, and I feel like I've improved. I feel like he's made me a better person because we both challenge each other gently. We're not afraid to communicate. We're not afraid to get deep and vulnerable. I was never like that. I could never do that with other people before. I just couldn't really be myself. Whereas with Andrew,
do you think it's a timing thing, or do you think it's Andrew in particular that kind of brought that out of you?
I think it's a timing thing. But I also think Andrew in particular is such a secure person. He's not perfect, sorry. blocks. You are perfect to me. But, but we complement each other really well. And we're both willing to work together and work it out. Like, of course, all relationships have arguments, bickers, moments, differences, all the rest of it. It's just how you kind of repair that rupture and how you move forward. And we're really good. We're a really good team. And, statistically, people divorce and people split up and la la la, and who knows what the future brings. Touch wood, that won't happen for us. But, like, again, realist here. Like, I'll still always say that. Like, he changed my life for the better, for sure. So,
slightly less deep and meaningful question then. What is your favourite romantic film?
Oh my goodness, Casablanca.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I like my black and white films.
Why?
I like the story of it because, I mean, obviously have you watched it?
I have, not for a long time.
Yeah.
It might have been that 15, 20 years ago, as I said. That.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? I love things like this. I think because it's so powerful, the story, in the sense of a man loves a woman so much that he lets her go. So if that sounds like really vague for those that haven't watched it, and I won't. Well, I have revealed the ending. Sorry about that.
Hey, listen.
But like, do you know what I mean?
You cannot spoil. Like, there's no spoiler alerts for a 70-year-old film.
True,
so
actually.
Shut up and go and watch it. Or
But I just love that, and obviously the journey and like the way it's filmed, and it was filmed during the war, and obviously it's got the war aspect to it. And it's incredible. Did you know as well? Fun fact for you: Humphrey Bogart and I can never remember her name. The lady that plays the main character, they hated each other.
No way.
In real life,
Why?
yeah.
I mean,
but yet they have this like quite nice
on-screen
chemistry. But they hated each other. It's actually funny enough, one of my dad's favourite films, and he would always try to get me to watch it. And I was, as a kid, like, I was so rebellious. I was like, no, I'm not watching it, Dad. And I actually watched it a few years ago on a plane. And I was like, oh, why did I watch this before? This is like the best film ever. But for me, it was he loved someone so much that he couldn't be selfish about that. He had to do the right thing by them. And that, to me, that is love. You see people like holding on to a relationship that isn't really working for them or for the other person, or people are selfish every single day. I don't particularly think that's healthy love. I just don't. So true love for me is loving someone so much that you
would give it up for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
That makes sense. How do you feel about Love Actually?
Oh, and I love Love Actually.
Because it's one of those things that comes up all the time, isn't it?
Yeah. Do people always say that?
Yeah. No. I mean, I think that's the first time I've asked that question. But it's just as I think out loud now, everybody always has something. If you put a modern moral take on Love Actually, on if you apply modern moral lens, it's like that bloke's bloody. That's his best mate's 19-year-old wife that he's doing this,
Yeah.
Kind of weird, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
So no, I just wondered if you had any particular kind of expert thoughts on that. But
on that particular scene or the whole thing?
On the whole thing, yeah.
Well, I think what's so beautiful about Love Actually is the stories in that we can either relate to it or we know somebody who has gone through it. So actually, one of the scenes is, I can't remember her name in it, but it's the woman with the disabled sibling. Oh my God, when I first watched that film, if you remember, she's on a date with somebody who she's wanted to be on a date with for so long.
He's in ridiculous shape.
Yeah.
Like, he's like ripped to shit.
Yeah. It's like, you painted?
Yeah.
And when she finally gets on the date with him or whatever, and then the phone
Don't
rings,
answer the phone.
and she's like, I've got to answer the phone because her brother is her priority. Oh my God. And then obviously she has to then spend Christmas with her brother and not with the person she wants to be. Again, sacrifice. Oh my God, like my heart. I remember watching it with my mum, and my mum was like, I don't think my mum hadn't really thought about it. Like, she'd seen the film before me, but I think she didn't realise it would evoke such a reaction in me. But it did, because I related to it, because I think for a long time, like, I was, and it still is, Jack is a big responsibility for my family, so when my parents...
Does he still live with them?
He actually lives in assisted living.
Okay.
But obviously not for a very long time, touch wood. When my parents go, like Jack, I'll always look after Jack. So that's a responsibility. So I think for me, I've always been like, oh my God, I really hope I have someone in my life that supports me with Jack and, is there for me and Jack. So that plays a big part to it.
And likewise, then, it's not just pop culture, I promise, but, I've got a particular fond spot for, like, Love on the Spectrum and things like that. Have you watched
I
Love on the
actually
Spectrum?
haven't. I've seen clips on
I
TikTok.
feel like you absolutely should. Like, you come to it with a concern that there's going to be some degree of
mockery,
exploitation or something, and it's absolutely not. It's it's
good.
beautiful. It's truly beautiful. You'll shed a tear pretty much every episode, at least once. I know my partner Vic. She's a crier for God. Like I can be sat like this is a weird thing to. I rarely sit on a sofa. I love sitting on the floor or lying on the floor.
Really?
Or I always just sit on the floor or I don't know what it is. I must be part dog or something. I don't know. We could be watching a scene. And I know for a fact if I turn around, she's crying.
Yeah. Oh, bless her.
It's but Love on the Spectrum. It's absolutely amazing, and shows like that. I mean, how do you feel about your shows like Love Is Blind and Married at First Sight? And do they make because Married at First Sight? I'm that bloke that if she's watching it and she calls it her trash. Right, and if I'm out doing whatever, I come in and she's watching it, and I sidle up and I'm like, who's this idiot? And then within 2 minutes, I'm still watching. I'm like. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And you see the experts. Have you watched Married at First Sight?
Yes.
The experts seem to be less expert than anybody I've ever met in my life. It feels like they get everything wrong all the time. Is that fair to say? Like with the therapist hat on, are you watching it going, you guys are idiots?
Yeah. I'd love to be an expert on Married at First Sight if anyone's listening and happens to be a producer, but the reason, they're making TV, aren't they? So, the experts conveniently match people together because it's going to work on paper, right? And obviously it doesn't, because if it did, it wouldn't
Yes, we need conflict, right? We need conflict.
Yeah,
so
we love a bit of entertaining. Well, how do I feel about those shows? Like, they're just TV. They're great entertainment. The concept is there. And actually, it's quite interesting, isn't it? On paper, you've got all these values and interests that do align. We'll go on and make it work, which is what I was saying to the beginning. Like, surely, that's a big factor as to why somebody would work. And do you know what? Yeah, it is. But also, there's so many more factors to the mix than just, the basics as well.
I guess love's the one big uniter, right? You think about fiction, you think about it's the one human emotion that mostly binds us all in some way, shape or form,
Yes.
whether it's romantic relationships or non-romantic. And I guess that's probably why so many things, why is Romeo and Juliet still so, beloved?
Yeah.
Because it's, again, scratch at the surface of that, that story.
Yeah.
Anyway, move away from pop culture. One final question. Can you finish your sentence for me? Anything is possible if
you believe in yourself. That's probably what everyone says, don't they?
Not quite. No, there's lots of different variations of answers to this.
Oh, yeah. That's quite... Oh, I feel like I'm really, clichéing it up today.
Yeah,
anything is possible if you do believe in yourself. Yeah, for sure.
And where do you see, as an extension of that, what do you think is possible for you, in terms of the rest of your career? Obviously, you're about, soon to be a mum in a couple of months and, all that sort of... So what do you think is possible for you?
Do you know, I'd love to do more... I'd love to do a TED Talk. I'd love to do more talks on, stuff like that. Events, bigger events. I love
TV, you can say.
Yeah. 100% TV. Yes, for sure. I need to kind of start putting myself out there, but I'm putting my studying first because I want to do TV when I am fully credentialed up. And I know that I wouldn't need to be, but kind of want to be.
I think it makes sense.
I think it makes sense. And yes, people get to know me on social media and they can read books and whatever and buy ebooks and all the rest of it. But yeah, I think TV will be something I'll fall back into at some point, doing the talks, having my clinic. Maybe there's an app somewhere again.
Well, you mentioned the second book. When do you think, if you could put a timeline on that?
There is no timeline, probably next year.
Okay.
Currently writing it now. We're in talks with publishers, which is really exciting. So yeah,
it's an exciting time. I mean, I remember I wrote a book and because of the children and things, I was up at 4:30 in the morning, right until then the dog got up, or the kids shout at me.
Yeah.
So how you found the process of writing it?
I actually, this time around, I have found it because I think I actually self-published my first book.
Oh, you did, right?
Yeah. nobody wanted to touch me. Because I hadn't really been on the scene for that long. And like I said to you, Andrew Block taught me everything I knew about self-promotion. I ended up getting on to like This Morning and going on Fox News and whatever. And that helped the book sales entirely and got my audience. But this time around, when I came up with another idea and started knocking on agents' doors, everyone was ready to listen to me a little bit, which was, it is what it is, I guess. But
they need a surer thing.
They do.
And you've got an audience, you've got a following, you've got something to say, you have credentials, you are an expert and, a burgeoning expert in this space. It's not like you don't have something important to say.
Exactly.
So it makes sense. It's just a frustration where, where are those people that, come from left field, like your first book might have done? Where are they where are they being found?
Completely.
It's all social media. I've spoken to publishers. And I mean, they came to me for my first one.
Did they? Amazing.
Because again, I had an audience.
They're
like, right, well, if you write within your niche, it will sell well within your niche, and
completely.
It did. And that's the.
It has been a bit frustrating. Like now, it's all good, but initially with this second book, there were some publishers that kind of were like, "Oh, we're more engagement focused, and she needs to have millions of followers." And it's like, that's such a shame that you get an influencer who probably is a crap writer. No offense, that's so stereotypical of me. But okay, they have a following, but they probably don't have the credentials. They probably don't have the knowledge, but they've got the following, and that's all that matters because books sell.
It's very short-termist. I think publishing is incredibly short-termist.
Yeah, and it's frustrating. But, thankfully, there are amazing publishers who are like, no, we put the author in front of the influencer, actually, and the person. And thankfully, that,
I hope it can change at some because the top 10.
I think it will.
You look at the top 10 of any fiction, non-fiction. There's 9 out of 10 of them are going to be celebrities.
I think we'll have it.
I think it could and should come back around.
It will. I really believe that.
Stina, this has been amazing. I've really, really enjoyed this. I know we've gone around the houses on a few different bits, but it's been so much fun. As I say, I'm super uneducated when it comes to this stuff, and it's just, I think, I've learnt a lot, and I hope that other people do as well. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in your house.
You are in my house.
I'm in your house. So I'll pack
Would
my
you like
stuff
a cup
up
of
and go.
tea?
Yeah, let's do it. Thank you very much. Cheers, Stina.
Thank you. Yay!
And we're back in the room. I hope you enjoyed that one. Stina's wonderful, isn't she? So insightful, so thoughtful. Been through quite a lot herself, bless her. Dating's weird, right? Relationships are strange. I and all of us can probably say that we've not got it right. All of the time. I don't get it right all of the time, day to day. But I try. And I think that's the important thing, I'm told. Well, I am grateful for you, again, my little posse of possibilists. Share with just one person. We'll double if you do. If you're being extra kind, please do leave a review. 5-star reviews only. None of that negativity. Thank you very much. I am going to be back next week with an episode with Chef John Watts. Now, if you don't know John Watts' story, hold on. Don't go Googling. If you do know who he is, get excited. It's a brilliant episode. If you don't, then yeah, I'm really looking forward to bringing that one to you. Thank you, as ever, and goodbye.